Urban Crag Climbing Center is a rock gym located in Dayton, Ohio, with 8,000 feet of textured and sculpted vertical terrain ranging from 28 to 56 feet. For more info, go to urbancrag.com or call 937-224-CRAG.
Okay.
I'm here with A.J. Wagner.
More
You're running
David.
for mayor. It's no longer a secret.
No longer a secret.
Okay, so my first question to you is, the position of mayor is seen by a lot of people as a ceremonial position.
Yeah.
Ribbon cuttings, and
Yeah.
shaking hands, those kind of things at different events. He or she is only one of a vote of 5 per people. So why do you want to become
Right.
the mayor of Dayton
Right.
when the position is seen by many as not really having much power?
Well, I mean, many people may see it that way, but I don't. It's the bully pulpit. It's the place where you have an opportunity to advocate and to create a voice for change. It's a place where you can lead, where you can say to others, this is the direction where we ought to go, or this is the direction I think we ought to go. What do you think? And it gives them a focal point for feedback, a focal point for ideas. And so the mayor's position is a lot stronger and a lot more important than just either the commission spots or it's just not just ceremonial. We're not just the flower pot in the room decorating the place. It's a lot more than that.
Okay, so if you win the mayor's seat,
Yes,
Dayton's going to have a commission of 5 longtime Democratic Party members.
that's
Do you think
true.
this will limit the scope of debate?
I sure hope not. I mean, one of the hopes that I have if I become mayor is that we'll get strong involvement from the whole community, and that means Republicans as well. I mean, I don't intend to limit my places at the table to just Democrats. I want to hear from the folks in the community who are going to help build the community, and there are a lot of Republicans in this community who want a voice and who want to help build this community and have good ideas and good input, and I dare say if they're business folks, they have a lot of important investment to make in the city. So we have to have them at the table.
Okay. We use the mayor's bully pulpit, and if so, how?
Oh yeah, I'll definitely use it. I'll use it. Well, let me give you some examples, and I'll give you an example of the mayor of Louisville. When he discovered that one of his companies wanted to leave the city because there just wasn't a sufficient talent pool for his particular business, he called together a number of businesses and said, look, this is bad, it's embarrassing, we're not going to let this happen. But because he's mayor, he has that authority, he has that power, he has that ability to bring people to the table. And he presented to the businesses a specific plan for mentoring and for developing programs for schools so that they could help the schools succeed, more particularly the students in the schools succeed, so that when they came out of school, they'd head for college and they'd create the kind of atmosphere and the kind of labor pool that businesses need today for the technical skills that are needed for today's jobs. And that's what a mayor does. The mayor rallies the troops. The mayor uses the bully pulpit to say, we need this, and we need it now, and we need it done. And there are several areas in the city, I think, where we do need that kind of leadership.
Okay. If elected mayor, will you be willing to criticize City of Dayton staff and other commissioners?
Yeah, you have to be careful whenever you criticize someone. I mean, first of all, you don't want to be throwing bricks at glass houses.
In a constructive way.
And certainly right, and certainly I'm subject to my own criticism. But yeah, I mean, are we subject to criticism? Absolutely, and hopefully it will always be in a constructive way, in a way that says, look, this isn't working. How do we do this better? Or look, I think if we try this, it might work better. What do you think? I don't think it comes in the way of calling anybody a name or calling anybody less than the full human being that they are. So I think that yeah, there'll be suggestions, there'll be constructive criticism for the city commissioners, only to the extent that I'll present my points of view. I mean, they have their own separate point of view, and I may not agree with it, but I'll certainly respect it. If it's their point of view and it makes sense, then, and sometimes different point of views both make sense. But this is the way I want to go, and this may be the way you want to go, but this is the way I'm going to push forward. For staff, it's important not only that I think that I review a lot of what staff is doing and how well they're doing it, but it's also important, I think, that I get feedback. I mean, I believe in management that really comes from bottom up. That is that we learn from people who are out there doing the job. Far be it from me to say, I don't like the way you're picking up the garbage in the morning. It's more important, I think, for me to listen to why they pick the garbage up in the morning that way first, and to get an understanding of what the job is, how it works, why it works. That's important before you go out and you start criticizing.
Okay. Tim Riordan's reign as city manager is, I'm not sure if it's going to be coming to an end fairly soon.
Yeah.
When he started his city, he didn't have plans for this being a
long-term
venture.
Right.
So do you have anyone in mind that you think would be a good city manager?
I don't have anyone specifically in mind. I'd like to see Tim hang on because I think he's doing a good job. The time that Tim steps down will probably, you kind of got to look at the pool that's available at that point in time. It's hard to say if Tim steps down tomorrow, there's going to be a different pool of people available than if he steps down 5 years from now. And so that idea that we always have to have somebody ready in the wings is kind of tough, because that list has to be constantly updated then and changing and moving. So it's hard to name anybody right now who I would suggest to replace Tim Riordan if he stepped down tomorrow. Of course, I wouldn't have a say in that, but and I won't be taking office if I'm fortunate enough to win. It will be a year and a half from now, almost. So that's going to be a different list of people probably than I could even make up today.
Okay. What specific legislation as mayor would you press for to be written?
Right off the bat, I want to take a really hard look at our housing inspection rules. I mean, our housing code. It's been the same for a very long time, for decades now, and it needs to be updated so that we can move more quickly and more swiftly on the abolishment of houses that aren't up to code, or at least the enforcement of housing code. And that probably takes more than just a code update. It might take different kinds of staffing too than we have now. But it is important, I think, that with what's going on in the neighborhoods, with all the vacant houses, with all the trash, with all the debris, with all the overgrown lawns, with all those kinds of problems, I think it's important that we update our codes so that we can react more quickly and more effectively to all those kinds of things. That's one of the first things that has to be done and has to be dealt with.
Okay. You haven't been shy about your anti-war views. Will you decline to support deals with military contractors who create weapons such as drones, which have been sarcastically referred to by people like The Onion as flying death robots? And there's been a lot of controversy about their use in places like Pakistan, across the Middle East.
I'm not a fan of war by any means, but my job as mayor is to bring jobs to the community, and I'll be focused on bringing those jobs to the community, and that means military jobs. Now, what I'd like to do, or what I'd like to see happen with some of that, for instance, we have out at the base right now a lot of biomedical engineers who are doing a lot of work to create soldiers that have capacities beyond what the normal human body has, so that their eyesight becomes better, so that their strength is better, so they can withstand more G-forces. They're doing a lot of biomedical engineering just to develop the kind of a superhuman soldier, if you will. Yeah, or a bionic man or something, you know? So that's good for the defense industry. And it's good for the community in the sense that it provides us jobs and it provides us with income for our folks. But I'd also like to then develop research centers that would take that same research and say, okay, how do we use this for peacetime purposes? How do we use it for soldiers who are coming home who are maimed and harmed and hurt? How can we take those new ideas and those new manipulations of biological structures to create aids for those folks who have been harmed by war? And then how do we take that to the general populace for folks who have been harmed by auto accidents or other kinds of things as well? You know, we're not going to stop the war machine, but we can turn swords into plowshares, and that's how we do it. We take the research that they're doing, and we create new kinds of research that finds peaceful purposes for what they are doing. And Dayton's the perfect place for that. I mean, we've got a VA center out here with a lot of soldiers who are hurting. Why can't we do it out there and create peaceful purposes for what they're doing?
Okay.
Where have you been?
I was shopping.
You've been out with Reuben, haven't you? It's all over your face.
What is your position on the war on drugs? Do you support it? Do you believe Dayton should move to decriminalize or fully legalize marijuana? You take the route with the immigrant-friendly, saying, well, if the feds want to enforce this problem,
Let them do it.
You guys do it. It's
Well, there's a really tough. That's a really tough question that I've gone back and forth. Quite frankly, I have gone from saying let's get away from drugs, let's stop all this nonsense. The war on drugs really isn't working, and it isn't. To saying, yeah, but this is a useful tool for helping people who are addicted, and for helping people who aren't paying attention to their families and who are in fact destroying their families and destroying their lives. I mean, you know, I know when I put people in prison, they often think that I'm just this horrible, mean guy. Half the time I'm putting them in prison to save their lives. I mean, they're out of control. They're doing drugs. They're in a violent scene. They're shooting at people. People are shooting at them. Well, let's get you off the streets for a while, man. Let's just put you away for a while, where you're going to be safe, and where others might be safe as well from you. And so it's kind of got a double-edged sword we're really on top of here. If we go one way and we say, no, we're not going to enforce this anymore, then we allow that to fester. We allow the destruction of communities and the destruction of families, because drugs are, as long as they're illegal on the federal level, the only way to get them is going to be illegally. And as long as people are getting them illegally, then that means they're breaking into houses, they're stealing stuff from your yards, they're breaking into cars, they'll do it any way they can.
There's no legal recourse between this guy and that guy, so they take it out to
you know, the truth is our jails are way overcrowded, and we need to find a solution that's better than throwing people in jail, but I don't know it yet.
Should we differentiate between drugs themselves? They're obviously someone who smokes weed is not comparable to someone on bath salts.
Yeah, and we do already. I mean, having a small amount of marijuana is a misdemeanor. A minor misdemeanor, and you'll get a ticket. But should we enforce that? Yeah, probably, and I'll tell you specifically why. If you walk out here on Main Street, you'll often get a scent of young men and women that are just gathered around smoking some weed. That doesn't bother me much, but it bothers people who visit downtown. And we have an obligation to make it so that they believe it's a safe, decent place for them to be, and for them to live, and for them to have their children. And a bunch of folks gather around smoking weed is troublesome for them. And so we probably have an obligation to enforce it. I like that it's at a minor misdemeanor level, We're not going to really throw you in jail for it. We'll fine you. Stop doing that. Let's just not do that in public like that. Go home, do it. You know, it's that's that kind of thing. I don't think it's weed is certainly not the same as cocaine. I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to is ongoing research into brain activity and how it works, how drugs are affecting brains, and how the biological and the physical impact of drugs. Because I think through that kind of research, I think that within a decade, I bet we have solutions that are totally different than what we have today. That is that we'll find drugs that countervail the addictiveness of a drug without doing other harm. Yeah, we know a whole lot more now than we knew 10 years ago about the effects of drugs on the brain. And I think with ongoing research and continued research, we're going to find other solutions and methods for solutions that will be far better than putting people in jail, far better than the programs that we currently have, far better than the treatments that we currently have. And I think we'll find ways to deal with this problem in the hopefully near future that put this to rest as to whether we need to make it illegal and whether we need to have addicted people who are so addicted that they can't control themselves from destroying themselves and their families.
Destructive.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll find other solutions. Was that clear as mud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you have voted to give General Electric, one of the world's largest and profitable corporations, a 15-year tax abatement for locating their facility here?
Probably. I don't know all the details, so I can't say for sure or not for sure, but I don't want to dodge that and say that I wouldn't have. I don't know for sure, but I think so. And I think so because of what it says about the area in terms of not just attracting the couple hundred jobs that they're going to attract. That's not as significant as the other kinds of industry and the other kinds of businesses that it can attract. And that's more important, I think, down the road. Hopefully it's just a foundation of something that's much bigger that comes our way. So probably.
The same question on a different deal. Would you have voted yes on the IRG deal?
You know,
Facility?
I've seen some of the things that David Azrati has posted about the IRG deal and what they're doing. And I don't know how aware the commission was or the city manager was of those issues or those kinds of things at the time. And at this point, I don't know if they've been verified if that's indeed what's happened out there. I know Dave's heard some things about it, but I don't know if those things have been verified.
Only the source level.
I think, yeah, and I think it's one of those things that tells you that you've got to be careful when you're making your contracts. You've got to look at the whole thing, not just at the immediate need of the city in terms of we need people to occupy these spaces. So let's get in a company that can do it. But you got to look at the fine print of the contract and say, what else did we tell them they could do? I mean, you know, certainly if they've done what David alleges that they're doing from his source, then no, I wouldn't have agreed with it at all. But I don't know right now what the commission was presented with or that kind of thing. Yeah.
You've been writing a column for the Dayton City paper for
Right.
I'm not sure how long.
It's not been a year yet, that's for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Now that you're a political candidate, do you give that up or you demand that, say, my opponent be given equal space
Yeah.
when I write something?
Well, I don't have an opponent yet. That's kind of nice. But let's say the mayor's my opponent and he gets in the race and he's thinking about it and he may do it in the next couple months. Well, then, but the mayor already writes a column in the city paper. And I assume that Paul Noah, the publisher, will continue to allow that to happen. If somebody else gets in the race, I can only assume, really don't know because this is Paul's decision, that he might allow them to get into it as well. My intention is to continue to write about the law until Paul tells me, stop, we don't want you to do this anymore because of the political ramifications or because it looks bad or because I don't think it's fair. I'm going to leave that up to Paul. It's his paper. It's his decision. He's invited me to write. He's continued to invite me to write, and I'll keep writing as long as he's happy with what I write. He may dump me because he doesn't like what I'm writing. I don't know, you know.
Or just going in a different
It's
direction.
his thing. Yeah, it's his thing.
Let's see. Yeah, this is real interesting. Last year, after a commission meeting, I asked City Manager Tim Riordan what guidelines were there to determine who get certain monies from economic development, what buildings were saved, and he told us on camera, it's on our site, that really didn't have any set guidelines. They just kind of take it on a case-by-case basis. Will you advocate for defined qualifications and full transparency for economic development grants?
Yeah, I have in the past. When I was county auditor, I sat on, there was a board that I used to sit on with the city and with other cities too, as to determine whether folks met their contracts. And in fact, one time when I was sitting on the board with the city, I voted we take back all the tax breaks from GM because they weren't meeting their quotas in terms of providing employees at the marine plant and at one of the other plants. And I took a lot of heat for that. But it was in the study of those contracts and those negotiations that I learned how bad we are at really standardizing any product, and how bad we are at determining what the return is on a product and enforcing those contracts to make sure that we get the appropriate return. I think it's important that we try and develop something that says, okay, this is what a job that pays $20 an hour is worth, and this is our break-even point. And I think we should be willing to go the distance for a company that wants to come in here and help us, help the community, and make sure that we bring in jobs. But when we start, there does come a point when we're giving away the store, and we're really giving away other assets of the community in order to bring in one kind of asset. We give away the asset of education or the asset of our ability to do services for our folks. And as a community, we're laying off teachers, we're laying off firemen, we're laying off policemen, or we're not hiring as many because we don't have the resources for that, because we've taken in companies and given them huge tax breaks. Well, we created 5 jobs over here and we lost 10 over here. It doesn't make sense. So there's got to be a standard developed that says this works, this is a good deal for us and for them. And if they get beyond that, God bless them, let them go to Kettering. We'll get some jobs out of that too. If they go to Kettering, you know, some of those jobs will come to Dayton residents, but we don't take the loss.
Okay. Dayton is famed for being politically apathetic. What can you do to increase? I've heard people blame the election of Kasich for the non-turnout in Dayton. What can you do as mayor to increase participation in local government?
You know, a lot of apathy comes from just that. I think there are 2 things. Number one is the apathy comes from people who are saying it just doesn't matter who you vote for. It's always going to be done differently. The other part of that is, and maybe it's the truth born out, is that people tend to get elected by taking the far left or the far right side, and they get their troops enthused and they get them excited, and then they get elected. But to govern, you got to be pretty much down the middle. To govern, you've got to pretty much go that center route, which makes those folks on the far left that elected you say, wait a minute, you're way more conservative than you said you were going to be, or on the right, you're way more liberal than you or moderate than you said you were going to be, but that's the way you almost always have to govern, is much more moderately than what you tend to put out there in the campaign. That makes people apathetic. It makes people say you didn't live up to what you said you would do, and so I think the key there is to try not to overpromise. At the same time, you want to put out your hopes and your aspirations and what you hope to plan to do, but at the same time, make people hope that people understand that you can't do everything. 3 commissioners say no, we don't want to change the housing code. It's not going to get changed. And all of a sudden, if I don't put up enough of a fight or a stink or whatever, they'll say, well, you're not the liberal you said you were. You didn't get it done. Well, I don't know if that's a liberal policy or not, but that's the reality of governing. You don't get everything you asked for, and so that drives those people who put you there crazy because you said you were going to get it for them, or at least that's the way they interpreted it. Yeah. Is there any hope, by the way, for being non-apathetic? Yeah, I don't know. I hope to be exciting enough that it's not. I hope to be exciting enough that, I mean, I think that one of the things about being mayor is that you've got to be a public relations person. You've got to go out there and tell people that they are getting things, that things are happening, that things are good. There are a lot of good things happening in Dayton right now. A lot of people don't believe that, and they don't believe it because they are unemployed, because life isn't good for them right now. And you can tell them that downtown is better, and we got bike lanes, and we got all that's good stuff. The river's going to be, the dam's going to be torn down, and we're going to be able to kayak and do great recreational things. That's all good stuff. But if you're out in the neighborhoods and you don't have a job, that doesn't mean squat to you.
100 shirts for only $395. 20 shirts for only $100. Greenleaf Printing and Designs has stupendous signage, printed and embroidered apparel, and promotional products for you. They're at 5526 Burkhart Road in Dayton and on the web at greenleafprinting.com.
There's a perception in the city that has been voiced to me, different places, that all the efforts seem to be concentrated on downtown while our area is falling apart, roads are bumpy, and things aren't taken care of.
Right.
What can you do as mayor to alleviate that? Or is there truth in that perception?
I think there's truth in the perception. I think we've concentrated a lot downtown, and it's paying off to some degree. I mean, we are getting, you can't buy a residential unit downtown. The condos are filled, the housing's filled, the apartments are filled. People want to live downtown, and it's becoming more and more exciting as we do the kinds of improvements that we're doing. We've got to take that out to the neighborhoods now, though. We've got to use that to take the next step and say, okay, how do we help the neighborhoods do the same kind of thing? To keep residents there, to make it exciting, to make it interesting, to make sure that we're filling up the properties that are there. That's why I'm saying housing code is one of the first things I do, because we've got to make the neighborhoods attractive. The other thing that we have to do is look 5 years down the road and say, what's going to happen to all these young professionals that are moving downtown once they have kids? Where are they going to go? Because they're going to want a yard. And we need to figure out how to keep them in the city. And that, again, means making the neighborhoods attractive, making them walkable, making them safe, and making sure we have the kind of housing at the reasonable kind of prices that people are going to want, and that are willing to send their kids to Dayton Public Schools with the knowledge they'll get a good education. I think Dayton Public Schools get a terrible rap, an undeserved rap, because our standard for evaluating schools is pretty much singularly on how did you do on the tests. That's pretty much it. Well, we throw into the Dayton Public Schools the poorest, most economically deprived kids in our area. And then we say, you didn't do well on the test, the schools are terrible. Well, no. There are kids that are doing great on those tests. They're good students with good teachers who are succeeding and who will succeed down the road. The Dayton Public Schools are putting out good people. My daughter went to Dayton Public Schools and has done very well in life. A good part of that's because of Dayton Public Schools. Not totally, but a good part of that is because of Dayton Public Schools. And I think that we need to tell people that story, that there are lots of kids who've gone through Dayton Public Schools and succeeded. And they've also had the advantage at the same time of dealing with, understanding, and being part of a very diverse culture. That's a really big plus in my mind for my kids. And I think that message needs to be out there so that we can attract people, and it's an honest message, so that we can attract people to the neighborhoods and to stay in the city once they move out of downtown, where do they go?
All right, we've got a couple more questions here. How much do you plan to spend on this campaign?
Oh, it depends who gets in it. Truthfully, if nobody else got in it, I don't have to spend any money. If I get a competitive candidate, a really strong but competitive candidate who raises a lot of money, then I've got to raise a lot of money. I wouldn't be surprised if I have to raise $250,000, and I'm gearing it toward that right now. That I've got to raise $250,000 to make this campaign work. If nobody else gets in it, then I'll pull back and I'll say, okay, I don't need all that, and I won't have to do it.
Is there anyone you refuse to take donations from?
Oh, I'm sure there are. I mean, I suppose if, and I don't even know who it would be.
Besides obvious, like
like a large drug dealer came in and slapped on my. Of course not. Yeah.
Or a terrorist figure.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean beyond that, within the realm of.
As a political statement or as a statement of principle, is there somebody I wouldn't take? I don't know who that would be right now. I suppose I'll know when the time comes. I just, right off the top of my head, I can't think of who it would be that I would say no. Part of that is thinking of who would even offer that it would be in that realm. I mean, there are a lot of people who aren't going to offer me money because they're not interested in the mayor's race and because they're not interested in me in particular. So I don't have to make that decision. So I guess I don't really know who that would be. Yeah. Would I? Sure. There's certain limits to every. I do have some principles. Yeah. Sure. I hope to uphold them.
You attended one of the first Occupy Dayton events, like
I did.
The big rally downtown. Why haven't you continued your association with Occupy?
Because I don't. I didn't feel. I don't understand the message. I think that's it. I mean, I had this overall sense and belief that, too much is going to the 1%. I love that 99% versus the 1% because it really expresses well what the main issue is. But when you get beyond that, I'm just a person who needs more structure, who needs more direction, who needs to understand where are we going, how are we going to get there, what are we going to do. I don't want to just stand at a rally and wave my hand and say, yeah, I agree, 99%, 1%. I want something that's more directive and more instructional and more, I guess, more goal-oriented. And I don't find that with the Occupy movement. And that's not to criticize the Occupy movement because they've done an awful lot of good, I think, for not just the city but the country. I really am overall supportive of that message and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to say. I just couldn't find what I needed in terms of direction to understand what I was standing for. I mean, you want to stand with people where you know exactly what you're standing for so that you can defend it if you have to. But I wasn't sure what I was standing for that day, other than this general notion that too much is going to the top and we're leaving the bottom out. And that can't be. We can't keep doing that. I absolutely stand for that. But how we get there and why we're doing it, and there were some messages over here to protest banks, and messages over here to protest corporations, and messages over here to protest. But what are we protesting about them? Banks are good. What are we protesting about them? There's good stuff to protest about them. Too much money's gone to banks and to save their butts, and they don't respect us back. They don't give us coverage on foreclosures that we needed. They don't help us with the foreclosure situation like we need, and yet we've helped them tremendously and made them profitable and allowed them to give huge bonuses to directors that shouldn't be. But so all that that general sense I'm with, but I need probably to stand with somebody. I need to know exactly what they're standing for so I can defend it more easily. That's the only reason I haven't been back.
Anything you'd like to add, or any question I haven't asked? Anything you need to ask?
No, thanks. First of all, thank you very much, David. I think it's going to be an interesting race. I think it's going to be fun. For me, it's fun. Yeah, please do.
What has Gary Leitzell not brought to the the job of mayor that you think you can do better?
Full time. I mean, Gary's a good guy. I really like Gary. If you meet him, you can't help but like him. I think he's just a very good man. But to not attend meetings because it's not. Well, I'll tell you. One of the good things he does is he takes care of his family. Helping his daughter and homeschooling her and taking care of her the way he does is a really wonderful sight to watch. They're close in a way that every father should be close with their child. That's a wonderful thing. But at the same time, you can't say, I can't meet with this person who's coming to town because I've got to be with my daughter if you want to be mayor. Or I have to bring my daughter to these important meetings and it's distracting to all the attendees because my daughter's at the meetings and because I have to take care of my daughter. That's not the place for it. When I was younger and county auditor, I was approached many times to run statewide, but my kids were young, they were in school. I had a commitment to my family and I would not run statewide until my kids were grown. And I finally ran for state Supreme Court, but my kids were grown. They were out of the house, they were gone. Until that came, I was not going to run statewide because my kids were more important to me than being a state office holder. And Gary's daughter is important to him and should be. And I have great regard for that. But now's not the time for him to be mayor if he can't be mayor full time. If he can't devote his whole being to being mayor. I want to devote my whole being to being mayor of this city. And I fortunately have a wife who's very supportive of that, and I have daughters who are grown and gone. And my grandchildren take a little bit of time, and I love them dearly, but they're in another city. They're over in Columbus. So I can focus on the city and do so almost exclusively. I mean, my wife and I still have our date nights because I have to pay attention to our marriage as well. But I think that I'm at an age and a place in life where this opportunity present itself for me in the city to kind of merge into moving forward, and I'm just excited to be able to get to this point in my life and be healthy enough to do it. It's really great.
Then get back to the last question.
Sure.
I didn't ask.
Go right ahead.
And no, just I was saying like
anything else?
Comment.
Yeah. No, just thank you. I mean, thanks for the interview. Thanks for the opportunity. To the listeners, I hope you'll give me a shot. There's a lot to listen to over the next year and a half. A lot of information that will come your way. Gary Leitzell's not a bad guy. Everybody I know that's thinking about getting in this race are good people and have some good ideas. It's going to be a tough decision, I think, in the end. And I just hope that I can convince people that the right decision is to go with the age, the experience, the desire to bring people together, the knowledge that I've acquired over the years of being an auditor and a judge, and I hope they see that as valuable, and hope that they see that my attitude, demeanor, and is all valuable as well to the job of bringing the city forward.
You know I pulled you over. Because you're a Reuben.